Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the John Deere R70 go-kart build. Today what's in store for you is me explaining how I rigged up the throttle and I guess you can say upgraded the brakes. Yeah, we'll go with that. Anyway, so here's the first upgrade. You gotta know which one is which. So what I did for the actual throttle here on the motor, this is kind of a weird setup, maybe not, I have no idea. So I thought it was kind of weird, but this is obviously the throttle right here. This went over to a plate that stood right here. Now that had a lever to adjust the throttle level and everything like that and hold it steady. What that went to is this little lever over here. This little lever is for the rev limiter or the governor. And right now, I mean, obviously that goes there, that goes to the throttle, and that's no throttle, that's wide open throttle. What I did is I put a small aluminum plate on it, and I'll explain the spring here in a few seconds, but this plate right here goes to this welding rod. I had some heavier stainless welding rod that I bent into shape, and with this right here, it's kind of difficult because if you look at this, this has this much travel. That's the difference between no throttle and wide open throttle. So idle, wide open throttle. Idle, wide open throttle. So there's really not much give, and this is the actual, go pedal. So you're talking about between 1/2 and 1/4 of an inch to 5 or 6 inches of travel. So there had to be a way to limit that. Now, how this is worked up is that there's obviously a pivot point on the throttle. And if you look down here, this pivot point right here, that's the actual pivot for the throttle. And there's another shaft that's hooked up right there. It's kind of hard to see, but what I did is, it's kind of hard to see, but I took that and I drilled another hole and I moved the actual shaft for the throttle closer to the pivot, which gives it less travel. The actual rod itself, which this rod right here, you can kind of see it gives it less travel. Now there's a couple of little steel angles in there like this that are holding that rod up. And on top of that, obviously these two are holding up this welding rod that I have bent into shape for the actual throttle. So that's how I have them hooked up right there. Nice, beautiful cotter pin hooking the two together. And it has, I'll go to the other side here. Oh, here we go. So we have that main rod that goes underneath the machine to where about this hole is right here. Then it's hooked up to the welding rod, and then the welding rod runs through and actually comes up to the throttle. Now, when I would actually use the throttle here, the actual throttle would not return all the way back. That's why I have this small spring, and that's what helps return it back to idle. So along with that, if it was too much play, this welding rod right here is still, there's still some give to it, and that's where a lot of the actual give or the play is with the with the actual return. So and that's just taking up some of the space or some of the tolerance to help out with the difference in travel between the actual throttle and the pedal. So now with the actual brakes, before I could step on this and it would go right to the end there, and I really wouldn't get too much. So what I did is, one, I adjusted the back. There's an adjuster on the actual drum back here. Let's see if I can find a seat spot for it. Yeah, right there, if it'll focus. Right there where that cotter pin is, that connector, there is an adjuster there. So I put a few turns onto that. And then along with this right here, I did the opposite as the throttle. So I actually drilled a hole, so you can kind of see the pin right there. I drilled a hole closer, further away from that pivot point, which will give it more travel. So now, I mean, right there, that's where it gets really tough. So when I get right there, it's gonna stop. It's gonna stop a lot faster and a lot more efficiently than it would have before. So now that I got that all straightened out, pretty much the only last two things that I want to get accomplished here is obviously put the seat on and wire up a kill switch. So just have to rebolt the motor down, weld some bars on for the seat, and wire the kill switch in. I think I'm gonna put the kill switch right where that big hole is right there. So anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.